My name is Jake, and if I ever had even the tiniest doubt about where I ranked in my family, whether I mattered as a son or just existed as a convenient solution, those doubts died the day I found the will. It wasn't some dramatic sit-down honey moment, no teary eyes, no solemn family meeting around the kitchen table. I didn't find out because my parents chose honesty. I found out by accident, by pure stupid luck. It happened a few months ago at my parents' house, the same house I'd been helping them keep for the last 5 years. The mortgage, the temporary shortfalls, the surprise repairs, the groceries when my mom said they were just a little tight this month. The little things that add up into a quiet second job nobody thanked you for. I was the one holding the place together. My brother Eric, he held the couch together. And I don't mean that as a joke. Eric was 28 and lived like life was a hotel he'd never have to check out of. No stable job, no responsibility, no urgency. He floated from one excuse to another like a leaf riding a lazy river, somehow always landing back at my parents' feet where they'd catch him like he was made of glass. And my parents, God, my parents were experts at explaining it away. He's finding himself. He's sensitive. It's hard out there for him, like it wasn't hard out there for everyone else, like it wasn't hard out there for me. That day, my dad asked me to help with paperwork. He always did, because anytime a form had more than 3 lines, it was suddenly too complicated. And somehow, I was their unofficial accountant, handyman, tech support, and financial safety net. I remember the light in the room was that late afternoon yellow that makes everything look warmer than it really is. The printer sat on the desk like a tired animal. The scanner made that low, mechanical hum, as if it was complaining about the job. My dad dropped a stack of folders beside me and said, "Can you scan these? We need digital copies." "Sure," I said. "Of course." Always, sure. I started sorting them. Bank statements, insurance papers, receipts, old contracts. The kind of boring adult clutter that grows silently over the years like dust in the corners of a room. And then I saw it. A folder. Thick, crisp, labeled in neat, careful handwriting. Estate plan, last will and testament. My hand froze. You know that feeling when your body reacts before your mind can catch up? Like the air shifts and your stomach tightens and your pulse changes rhythm? That. I stared at the folder longer than I should have. And I want to be clear. I wasn't there to snoop. I wasn't digging through drawers or searching for secrets. That folder was sitting right on top, like it didn't even need to hide. But curiosity is a strange thing, especially when you've been paying for the roof over someone's head, especially when you've been treated like the dependable mule while your brother gets to be the golden statue. I told myself I was just going to glance, just to understand how things were set up, just to know what kind of future they were planning, and where I fit in it. So I opened it, and the moment I saw the words inside, my stomach dropped like an elevator cable snapped. Everything, and I mean everything. The house, the savings, the accounts, the assets, all of it, going to Eric. Not a single meaningful mention of me, not even a token line, not even a polite little "Jake receives X amount." Just a couple of generic sentences that sounded like they were copy-pasted from a greeting card. "We love both of our sons equally." Equally. Right. My hands started to shake. Not in a loud way, not in a dramatic way. More like a quiet tremor. The kind you get when your nervous system is trying to process betrayal without breaking your bones. I sat there, staring at the page, hearing the scanner hum beside me like nothing in the world had changed. But my world had changed. Because suddenly the last 5 years of my life rewound in my head like an ugly highlight reel. Me Venmoing my dad at midnight because the mortgage was due and he forgot. Me carrying bags of groceries into their kitchen while my mom said, "Oh, Jake, you're such a blessing." Me on the roof fixing a leak in the rain while Eric slept in until noon. Me replacing a water heater, patching drywall, mowing their lawn, paying property taxes, being their solution. And this was the reward. A future where I got nothing, a future where I was useful only as long as I was paying. I didn't know how long I sat there. A minute, 10, an hour? Time got weird in that moment, like my brain didn't want to be in my body. Then my dad walked back into the room. "Hey Jake," he said, "what's taking so long?" I didn't even try to hide the papers. There was no point. My hands were still holding the truth like it was hot metal. I lifted the will and looked him dead in the eye. "So this is how it is," I said. My voice came out calm, almost too calm. "Everything goes to Eric?" His face went pale for a second, just a flicker, like a mask slipped. Then he sighed, not in guilt, in annoyance, like I'd spilled coffee on the carpet. "Jake, it's not what you think." I let out a short laugh that didn't feel human. "Really?" I snapped. "Because it looks pretty damn clear to me. I've been paying your mortgage. I've been helping with groceries. I fixed up half this house with my own hands. While Eric does nothing, and you still decided he's the only one who matters?" My dad looked uncomfortable, sure, but discomfort isn't the same as remorse. He rubbed his forehead like he had a headache and said, "It's complicated." That was it. No apology, no explanation, no, "we're sorry." Just, "It's complicated." Like betrayal was an accounting term. I stared at him, waiting for more. Waiting for the part where he'd finally say something that made sense. Something that didn't turn my entire life into a punchline. But he didn't. So I called out for my mom. When she walked in and saw the will in my hands, she froze like she'd been caught mid-theft. Her eyes flicked between my face and the papers. For a moment I thought she might break down. I thought she might finally see what they'd done. Instead, she stepped forward, softened her voice, and said the sentence that snapped something inside me clean in half. "Jake, honey, you don't need an inheritance." She said it like it was comforting, like she was doing me a favor. "You have a good job," she continued. You're independent. Eric, he struggles. We just want to make sure he's taken care of. Taken care of, like he was a sick pet. Like he wasn't a grown man who'd chosen laziness because they rewarded it. And in that moment, the whole family dynamic came into focus with painful clarity. They weren't confused. They weren't mistaken. They weren't even ashamed. They knew exactly what they were doing. They had spent years enabling Eric and using me, and now they planned to reward him with everything while I was treated like an afterthought. I placed the will back on the table carefully, like it was fragile, like if I moved too fast I might shatter. Got it, I said. My voice was eerily calm again. Glad to know where we stand. My mom reached out like she was going to touch my arm, but I stepped back. Then I walked out. I didn't slam the door that time. I closed it slowly, because I wanted them to hear the quiet finality of it. After that, I didn't go back. I didn't call. I didn't check in. For the first time in years, I let them handle their own problems. If something broke, they could figure it out. If they needed groceries, Eric could finally learn where the store was. If the mortgage bill showed up, well, I wasn't paying it anymore. At first, the silence lasted 2 weeks. I think they assumed I was pouting, that I'd cool off, that I'd come crawling back the way I always did, because that's what dependable sons do, right? They get hurt, then they swallow it, then they keep giving. Except this time, I didn't swallow it, and then reality hit them. One afternoon, my dad texted me, "Property taxes are due. No, how are you? No, let's talk. No, I'm sorry." Just a cold transactional message like I was still their walking wallet. I stared at it, almost amused at how predictable they were. Then I typed back, "I'm sure Eric will handle it since the house is his and all." 5 minutes later, my mom called. I let it ring. Then she texted, "Jake, please don't be like this. We need to talk." Oh, now they wanted to talk. Now that the bills were stacking up and their favorite son wasn't magically solving things, I waited an hour before replying, "There's nothing to talk about. You made your choice. Live with it." I thought that would end it for the day. Then Eric chimed in late that night. The second I saw his name, I knew it would be obnoxious. "Dude, why are you being such a drama queen?" he wrote. "It's not a big deal. Just help them out like you always do." I actually laughed. Not a big deal. Of course it wasn't a big deal to him. He was inheriting everything. I texted back, "No, I think you've got it covered. You're the favorite." He replied fast, "Oh my God, are you seriously mad about the will? Grow up. It's just money. Just money. Funny how it's just money when it's his." So I wrote, "Then you won't mind paying the mortgage, right?" Silence. Then my mom tried guilt. "Jake, we're your parents. Family takes care of each other. We did so much for you." I had to take a deep breath so I didn't throw my phone. They had fed me, clothed me, raised me, the bare minimum of parenting, and now they were holding it over my head like a lifelong debt. So I replied, "You made it clear I'm not family when you cut me out. Eric can take care of you." That's when my dad texted, "We're not asking for much, just enough to cover the mortgage for a few months. Don't be selfish." Selfish, that word hit like a slap. I had been sacrificing for years, quietly, constantly, while they planned a future where I was worth nothing. So I typed, "No, I'm done," and I turned off my phone. The next morning, I woke up to a bank transfer request from my mom. No message, no explanation. Just a cold request for $3,500, the exact amount they needed. It was so shameless, I actually stared at the screen like it was a joke. They weren't even asking anymore. They were assuming. I declined it. 5 minutes later, my phone rang. "Mom," I didn't answer. Then she texted, "I know you saw the request. Why did you decline it?" I took my time and wrote, "Because it's not my responsibility. Try Eric." Another call. Declined. Then, "We're going to lose the house if you don't help." My dad joined in. "You're really going to let your parents become homeless?" That one actually made me laugh out loud. Not because it was funny, because it was pathetic. They weren't homeless. They had savings. They had options. They just didn't want to sacrifice their comforts because they were used to me doing it for them. That night, Eric texted, "Just send them the money already. You're making this bigger than it is." I wrote back, "The money you're inheriting, why don't you send it?" His reply came fast. "You know I don't have that kind of cash right now." Of course he didn't. He never did. But somehow I always did. So I sent, "Guess you better figure it out. You're the one they chose." No response. I went to bed feeling strangely peaceful, like I'd finally stepped off a treadmill that had been running my whole life. Then the next day, things escalated. I was at work when my apartment's front desk called. "Jake, your parents are here." My stomach dropped. "What?" I said. "They're saying it's an emergency and they're being kind of pushy." My jaw clenched. "Don't let them up," I said. "I'm not expecting them." A pause. "They're insisting." "I don't care," I said, voice tight. "They can leave." I hung up, and immediately my phone buzzed. "Mom, we downstairs, open the door." No question, just a demand. Then, "Jake, we're not leaving until you talk to us." I stared at the screen, then stood up from my desk. Fine, if they wanted a conversation, they were going to get one they'd never forget. When I got downstairs and opened the door, there they were. Mom, Dad, and of course Eric, standing there like a bored extra in a scene he didn't want to film. Mom had her arms crossed, her expression already loaded with disappointment. Dad stood stiff, hands in his pockets, like he couldn't believe he had to deal with this in person. And Eric, he looked mildly inconvenienced inconvenienced, like he was waiting for someone to hand him snacks. Mom started immediately. Jake, finally, we need to talk. I leaned against the doorframe. No, I said, you need to leave. She blinked like she didn't understand the language. Excuse me? You heard me, I said calmly. You don't get to show up at my apartment demanding money. Dad scoffed. Are you really going to let us lose the house over a petty grudge? I laughed, cold and sharp. Petty grudge? I repeated. You mean the one where you decided I was good enough to pay your bills but not good enough to exist in your will? Mom gasped like I'd cursed. Jake, that's not fair. We only did what we thought was best for the family. I tilted my head. The family, I repeated slowly. You mean Eric? Silence. Eric finally spoke, shrugging. Look, man, I don't even want to be involved in this. I didn't ask for anything. I turned on him. No, you just sat back and took everything, I said. You're 28, Eric. Get a damn job. His face flushed. What the hell, Jake? You heard me, I said, stepping closer. You want to inherit the house. Start acting like a homeowner. You want to be the golden child? Start paying their bills. I'm done being your personal bank. Eric looked away, suddenly fascinated by the sidewalk. Mom tried again, softer this time. Jake, he's your brother, I nodded. Yep, I said, and I've supported him longer than you ever have. Dad's face hardened. You're being selfish. I laughed again, real this time. Oh, that's rich, I said. You two decided Eric deserves everything and I deserve nothing, and now that it's time to deal with the consequences, you're trying to manipulate me into fixing it. Mom's voice sharpened. We thought you'd be mature about this. Mature, I echoed. You mean quietly accept being betrayed and keep paying your bills? Dad stepped forward, trying to loom over me like he used to when I was a kid. We raised you, he said. We fed you. We clothed you. We gave you everything. The least you can do is help us now. I looked him dead in the eye. I already did, I said. For years, and you repaid me by cutting me out. Mom's lip trembled. We thought you'd understand. Oh, I understand perfectly, I said. I understand I was never family to you. I was a paycheck. That silence after that sentence felt heavy, like the truth had weight. I turned to Eric again. And you, I said. What's your excuse? He threw his hands up. What do you want me to say? I didn't ask for this. I nodded slowly. Right, I said. You didn't ask. You just benefited. Mom tried one last guilt trip, voice trembling. Jake? We're family. I stared at her a long moment. Exactly, I said. So why didn't you take care of me? She froze. No comeback, no script, just an empty face. I exhaled, feeling lighter than I had in years. We're done here, I said, and I closed the door. After that, I blocked their numbers. I thought it would end it. I was wrong. Less than a day later, I started seeing posts on Facebook. My parents weren't tech savvy, but they were experts at playing victims. At first, it was vague posts about selfish children and family betrayal. Then it got more direct. My mom posted about how she didn't raise her son to abandon family. Dad posted about how some people turn their back when you need them most. And then Eric, of course Eric, shared a post about love and sacrifice, painting himself like some devoted son. I sat there staring at the screen, feeling something cold settle in my chest. They weren't just hurt, they were rewriting history. They were turning me into the villain to save their pride. And for a few hours, I didn't respond. I walked, I breathed, I let the anger cool enough that it wouldn't control my hands. Then I opened Facebook and I wrote the truth. Not petty, not screaming, just facts. I posted about the mortgage payments, the repairs, the groceries, the way I'd been funding their comfort while they built a future where I didn't exist. I wrote about the will. I wrote about the favoritism. I wrote about the bank transfer request like I was an ATM. And when I hit post, something inside me unclenched. For the first time in my life, I wasn't carrying their version of me. The reactions came fast. Some people supported me immediately. Cousins, old friends, even a few of my parents' friends who privately admitted they'd seen the favoritism for years. And then came the backlash. Eric messaged, "You're a traitor." Dad left a voicemail practically screaming that I'd ruined everything. Mom sent messages from a different number, begging, accusing, crying. But none of it worked, because I finally saw them clearly, not as the parents I wished they were, but as the parents they actually chose to be. So no, I didn't regret cutting them off, not for a second, because the moment I stopped paying for their comfort, they showed me exactly what I was to them. And now I'm choosing something different. I'm choosing peace. I'm choosing people who love me for who I am, not for what I can give them. And if that makes me selfish in their story, so be it, because in my story, for the first time, I'm finally free. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below.